Hello, everyone. My name is Alexine Mudawar. I am CEO of Women in Sales, and we are super excited for today's event. One of the coolest parts about this community, Women in Sales, is that we have these opportunities to actually pull event subjects from all of you. So the reason this entire webinar came about is someone posted in our Tech Tools and Platforms channel about digital sales rooms and wanted to better understand how to utilize them. So here we are on a Digital Sales Rooms 101 webinar today for that very reason. So to begin, I wanted to quickly introduce one of our panelists who's going to talk a little bit about Aligned, who is our partner company that's co-hosting this. Dal?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining, and very excited to be here. Thanks, Alexine, for inviting us. So Align, basically, really real quick, is the digital sales room. So, of course, it's going to be very easy to understand the context. We talk about it as a customer-facing, really collaboration platform that helps you standardize and run really the perfect process across sales and CS. That solves for just a better experience and managing the complexity. So focusing on sales today, it is a digital sales room, a tool that helps you. We're going to dive in deeper and hear a deeper explanation, but helps you with your actual deal execution, champion building, buyer engagement, multi-threading, a single space that kind of walks you through the entire process with your buyer and helps you sell more effectively, which essentially helps you influence core metrics like win rate, ACV, and deal velocity. Excited to be here. We've been now just recently announced our second year of partnership with Women in Sales. It's been amazing. We love the mission. We love Alexine. We love the team and all the amazing panelists here today. So really excited to be here.
Amazing. We're so excited to have you. It's going to be a really good topic. And we're excited to just drill into this because there's always these new kind of variations on how we sell. And the TLDR of this event is how do we sell more, faster, easier, and make it better for our buyers? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we introduce all of our panelists here, would also love to meet some of you who are here in the audience today. So if you're joining us, if you're in chat, if you could just drop a quick hello, tell us who you are, tell us where you're joining from, maybe a fun fact if you feel like it. We love to hear from all of you. And as we go through the event today, if you have any questions at all, there are no such thing as silly questions on this event. This event is truly a 101 on digital sales room. So we are here to answer anything and everything. So you can toss those questions into the tab that's titled Q&A, and we will get to those towards the end of the conversation today. I already see some people out there. We have Arthur Castillo, we have Anitza. So we have so many cool people already here. This is going to be a fun event. But to kick us off, I'm going to go in sequential order based off who I see here. So Saad, tell everyone who you are and introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. Big supporter, big fan of Women in Sales for a variety of reasons for quite some time. My name is Saad Khan. I'm the Director of Sales and Biz Dev here at Aligned. My job is to work closely with Gal, help educate our market on what deal rooms are, help build pipeline, work with our AEs, our product team. I like to think of myself as like the middleman between the greater market and Aligned right now. That brings a lot of things, and we're also building a brand new category. Deal room, exactly to what you guys are saying, right? The category does not exist. So our job is to my job is to add just the right little bit of friction to help people understand Aligned through and throughout, and then get the most out of it. On top of that, we're also unrelated to just the conversation here. We're building a system in how we do outbound that's really based on being relevant, hyper focused. So we're not burning our audience, we're not burning our market. We're making sure that our partners and the people associated with our partners are getting the best experience from the company, whether it's a sales process or education. That's kind of just the world that I live in, and excited to be here and happy to speak more about it.
Amazing. Linda, what about you? Maybe you can also talk about your brand new appointed position within Women in Sales and also what you do full time.
Yes, thank you. Hello. I am Linda Dow-Orr. I am first an advisor for Women in Sales. I am honored to be part of the team. Like Alexine, I really do believe in empowering fellow women to do their best, and I serve as a mentor for a lot of up and coming women executives. On the other side, I run a sales and marketing consultancy, and we focus on driving high growth companies beyond their revenue goals, as well as efficiently scaling their operations. And honored to be part of this panel.
Amazing. Zoe, what about you?
Hi, my name is Zoe Hartsfield. I run evangelism and influencer marketing in my 9 to 5, but I'm also an advisor and an avid user of Aligned on the side, and a big fan and community member at Women in Sales. So I'm just glad to be here, get to chat about digital sales rooms and how they've helped me be a better seller.
Amazing. Gal, I know we introduced you already. Anything else you want to add to your introduction? Otherwise, we're diving in.
No, yeah, excited to be here. I'm before being a founder and seller and CEO, I've been in these shoes as a seller. So Aligned is really from a passion of solving problems that we experienced throughout the years. My co-founder, we're two co-founders named Gal, and coming from sales with a third co-founder from tech. And really experience these challenges that we're here to solve with this product. And Digital Sales Room is so it's beyond a company. It's really being obsessed with solving a problem that we've experienced many years in tech sales. So yeah, you'll hear me very passionate about this topic today, of course, and excited to be here.
Yeah, so excited to have you. And it's kind of funny, I'll tell just a quick background story. So I was the first person to join from the advisory side for Aligned. And it was one of the very first advisor roles where I demoed the platform one time. And I was like, let me in. I want access. I want to be part of this. I want to help this company grow. Like, this is the right time. This is the right product. And they have the right go-to-market strategy. So I'm super excited about this. I'm also passionate about Aligned. So we're going to dive right in now. So I think first and foremost, the easiest place for us to start today's conversation is talking about what digital sales rooms are. And we're going to really take this from, I know all of us are overwhelmingly familiar with digital sales rooms. We live in this space. However, a lot of our members aren't familiar with digital sales rooms. They might just be hearing these terms for the very first time in their career. So I want to start this question with you, Gal, and then we'll just pass over to some of the other folks here. But can you talk about, at a very, very high level, what is a digital sales room? Why is it used? Why does it exist? Just take us through a little bit of the journey, the background.
Yeah, absolutely. So really on a high level, it's a customer-facing collaboration tool, right? For the first time, there's an end-to-end tool for collaborating, working with your customer better in a way that helps sales leader to standardize. So it's about, for sales leaders, it's about process standardization, making sure that everyone run the right process effectively. And for the team, it's really a way for you to just close more deals, to multi-thread, to close deals more effectively, and to drive what's kind of the key driver. We're going to talk about probably a lot about the why, is to drive a better buying experience, really be more buyer-led. So if you think about the problem, then I'll talk about the kind of the day-to-day, how we work has not changed for dozens of years. If you think about not even an enterprise complex deal, any deal, and we're seeing this a lot, even an SMB deal is back and forth, sending the resources, sending case studies, sending email summaries of challenges, of pain points. Here's another email, and maybe going into other channels. People are getting looped in. There's attachments. There's maybe, if you're doing bigger deals, then mutual action plan in a Google spreadsheet. You share Loom, Gong calls, PandaDoc, right? There's so much stuff going on. And then if you think about the buyer side, you're expecting a champion to go and take all of that, all of these resources throughout that process and sell for you internally, right? No deals today are just you meeting one sole decision maker day to day, face to face, with a suit and tie, like in the past. And that champion really needs to make sense of all of this information, loop in more people. These people are looped in maybe late in the process, don't have the context of everything that happened throughout the process. which doesn't create an optimal experience, doesn't make it easy to make the case internally. Stakeholders are hidden to you. You don't know who are these people that are maybe behind the scenes going through all of these materials and what are they doing and how that could maybe help me forecast the deal better or close the deal. So the way that we've been working, that way of work has not changed for dozens of years. Well, if you look at the rest of the business spaces where we collaborate with other people, you have Miro, Figma, there are so many tools in so many other areas that just foster better collaboration. So essentially we've created, or beyond us, right, the digital sales room as a category is about ending your first call and throughout the entire sales process, just sharing a single URL that now is that place where the deal lives, okay? You loop in resources, you build the mutual action plans there, you share content, people can comment, buyers can comment, team selling, everything in one place. So really it helps AEs better execute deals, build champions, identify hidden stakeholders, run mutual action plans more effectively than a spreadsheet that's disconnected from the CRM and the sales process and everything, and get insights on what's going on when you're not in your room, and eventually really just close more deals and forecast better.
Amazing. Very well said. Linda, would you add anything? What would you add?
Absolutely. We all know that sales is tough, right? So we want to make it as easy as possible for all of our stakeholders to quickly understand what you're selling, how it can solve the problem. And so what I was highlighting is with the digital sales room, it is a centralized platform for all relevant materials, right? Tools, resources, communication, collaboration. So I cannot stress enough how crucial it is to make it easy for everyone to quickly understand what you're selling and how it solves your problems.
Yes, very well stated. And that's the name of the game right now. Everybody's attention spans are shortening, and the faster you can help them understand, the faster they can access resources, the better. Zoe, anything you would add here as well, just as we start to contextualize what digital sales rooms are?
I just think it creates a level of uniformity across the sales process while still being able to create like a bespoke buying experience. Like in 2024, you're creating a buying experience. You're not dragging somebody through your process. And yet there's still a need for process, especially as companies scale. I understand there needing to be like some level of repetition. That's how we repeat success. And so I think digital sales rooms kind of sit at that intersection of like being able to customize and collaborate with your buyer while still having the structure that you need for your internal systems, for your CRM, for your leadership, so that you can actually like coach. Because if every deal is like the Wild West and you can't see into it, if it's just like a black box, like how does everybody get better? How do you repeat that success? And so I think it's kind of the perfect thing from like a seller's perspective, from a leader's perspective, and from a buyer's perspective, creating this like win-win-win scenario where everybody gets what they want out of it, and it also moves the deal through faster.
Very well said. Yes. Saad, we covered a lot. Anything to add? Anything we missed?
It's always fun to go last on a topic, but honestly, but that's exactly it. It's the best reaction that we get when people look at Align. They're like, this just fits. This just makes sense. And everything that everybody has said has made sense. And I kind of want to double tap what Zoe said about creating a bespoke buyer experience. I met with a rep from Gong one day, and she was like, oh, I thought I was just getting something to share collateral, but you're telling me this can replace emails? And I was like, well, let's pause there. This is not about replacing emails, but one thing, it makes it easy for you to pick up conversation topics where they were left off, to just, move things along internally. And then the main core for me is this. I'm just going to leave it at that. As a good seller, we're only as good as the level of control we have in our deals, and the level of control is only as good as the level of data you have. Through using a deal room, ultimately what you get, if you're centralizing content, communication, and mutual action plan, you're capturing data, which Align does, to give you data to identify risk and intent. Deals are won and lost when we're not in the room. And if you have that data to identify the risk and intent, that's a deal room for me personally. Bringing all this together, that data is going to help you drive either meet your forecast or bring down sales cycle time, or just bin off the deal that you don't have to worry about. We hear from all the CROs and VPs of sales, right? Just disqualify fast, disqualify fast. So just adding to what everybody else has said is that's a line for me. That's what gets us all passionate and excited. I'll stop here. I can ramble, but yeah.
Yes. Well, so we're going to start to talk about a little bit further about what problems these digital sales rooms are actually solving. But before we do that, quick reminder, yes, the event is being recorded. There will be an event replay enabled within AirMeet right after this event. So share with your teams, share it internally. We love that. Share it externally too. That's great too. And just as a reminder, if you have questions, if you put them in the regular chat, it's harder for us to keep track of them. So if you could just put those into the Q&A tab, and we will try to get to as many questions as we can towards the end of the conversation. So keep throwing them in. We're watching. And so where we're headed next is we're going to talk about what problems digital sales rooms are helping solve in the field of sales today. So for this question, I would love to start with Linda and have you just share, what do you think is being solved by digital sales rooms? Why is there such an opportunity? Yeah.
Sure. So we all love stats, right? So according to research from TrustRadius, nearly 100% of buyers want to self-serve for all or part of the buying journey. So, as we mentioned earlier, we want to make it easy for all of our stakeholders to quickly understand what they're selling and how it can solve their problems. And so with digital sales rooms, it gives our buyers a veritable buffet of resources to find what they want. And so that is tremendously important because you want to serve up the information that they're in need of. And again, going back to that research from TrustRadius, like they want to be able to self-serve. So this buffet of resources where they can pick and choose is tremendously helpful and valuable to that part of the buying journey.
Yeah, very well said. Saad, what about you for this question?
This is actually true from an example. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
This is actually from. Oh, can you guys hear me? Okay, cool. It's I'm a sales manager. I get emails a lot of times, brilliant prospecting emails, and I sometimes don't reply. And email deliverability is short these days as well. You can't get away with sending links anymore. So one thing is a part of Align that I think it can help solve is just the transfer sharing of information, and in a way that you can actually control it better, make sure you can hold your buyers accountable, that they're actually like every sales is, it takes two to tango, right? So one core problem is actually making sure, are my buyers getting educated? And then the other core problem that I like to think that Align solves for is, look, Gal said this earlier, every deal is now being run like an enterprise deal. You need multi-threading, content sharing, and a lot of them. And to do that, you have to use mutual action plans. The problem with mutual action plans, they're always on spreadsheets or Google Docs, and it becomes impossible to track engagement, actually hold buyers accountable, get them to complete their tasks, and at the end, it just ends up becoming your buyer's one-way checklist, and then anxiety and all that stuff. Those are some of the core problems that there's obviously a few more, but that's kind of where I would highlight some of the main bread and butter.
Awesome. Zoe, what about you? What problems do you think these digital sales rooms are solving for?
So I think it does a couple things. My main sales background historically has been as an SDR. And so one thing that I found really interesting about digital sales rooms is like very seamless handoff as you're kind of like creating opportunities, because sometimes you're sending people collateral, trying to get them to book the meeting, trying to get the right decision makers involved, and it might not be an opportunity yet. At least that was the case for me when I was an SDR. And so it gave me a space to like build up context. And the handoff was incredibly seamless for my AE. But also, now that I'm in a different role, I'm technically in marketing, but I actually do some full cycle sales. I closed a deal for the first time as like a full cycle AE in December. It was like my first deal ever. And I used Aligned, and it was a 20-person company. It still involved 3 decision makers. And so it was like, even I literally talked to, 15% of the company in order to get this 8K deal through the door. And so just like having a place for everybody to have context was really helpful. it also helped when somebody went out on PTO and someone else jumped in and took over the conversation. They were immediately caught up. And it's like in today's day and age, it's a little bit dark, but like think about all the layoffs that are happening. Think about all the job changes and how you could be 2/3 of the way through a buying cycle and your decision maker like dips and doesn't pass anything off. Okay, now you have a perfect record of everything that has been discussed already. And you can pick things up where they've left off. Like that alone has probably been the most impactful thing in the last 3 months for me to be able to continue sales conversations when my champion or my decision maker exits the conversation.
Yeah, that was a very good call out, Zoe, because it is really real. Like it's on both sides. This is really like this last year to two is the first time in history where actively, I mean, it happened periodically years ago in a deal where someone on either side would drop out or move to a new company. It's happening at such a high rate at this point. And it's so critical to understand there's nothing worse than having a deal that's like 3/4 of the way done and a new seller comes in and they're like, hey, what stage were you at? Like, what were you guys talking about? And it's just such an awful buying experience on the other side. And then vice versa. Like you said, Zoe, you know, if the actual buyer dips out and if there's still a real need for this company, for your services that you're offering, you have to be able to catch them up to speed on where the conversation's left off. So that's a very real situation that's happening behind the scenes on a lot of deals right now. Gal, what about you? Anything you would add on the problem side?
Yeah, I think all great points. Like to recap, sounds like we're talking about champions failing to sell internally. We're talking about lower buyer engagement. We're getting ghosted. We don't know who's involved, hidden stakeholders, or people changing and struggling to control the process. That's kind of more of the ICAE kind of level of challenge. If we go higher up to sales leaders, then sales leaders typically when we hear something like this coming into the discussion is we're just trying to better manage the complexity, right? Like going up market, people that are companies that are trying to level up, do multi-product selling, just overall solve for win rate, sales cycles, then really it's a solution to just level up performance by providing more control and a better buying journey and to standardize. Like the key for sales leaders, the challenge is how do I ensure that everyone follow the perfect process? So that's from a pain point of view, and I would say all good points, just summarizing a little bit of what I've heard so far. I think another key thing that I want to maybe dive in a bit more into is what Linda said at the beginning. I think there's a big why now here that's very important to convey because things are changing, right? Sales, buying is changing, sales is changing constantly, and the stats that Linda shared is just, it's just incredible. I think we're talking about this a lot. We're basically in what we call a buyer-led era right now. It's no longer that a salesman with a suit and tie just goes and close that, mythical sole decision maker face to face. Buyers close deals, not sellers. Right? It's all, and enterprise sales has always been champion based, but today SMB deals are champion based. You're not really closing the deal, and so much is happening when we're not in the room. If you look at the stats, at the behavioral changes, then buyers are just more empowered to self-serve and self-research, as Linda mentioned. There's increased complexity. Last 2 years, in a 20% increase in categories, not vendors, categories. AI is one category. Think about it. It's crazy. We have double number of stakeholders in the last decade. And so if you think about it, buyers were sold to for years. Grads, SDRs, spray and pray, 16-step sequence kind of thing that's ruined the inbox. And then you have Google spam policy. We have junior AEs just pitched to a lot of people and growth at all costs. So Forrester says that 34% of buyers actually feel that sellers add value. Okay, so we got to a point where the industry is shifting, where buyers know more, and they're asking themselves, why would we spend time with not really helping? It's not really supporting, which is why, as like Linda shared, are true. Another one by Gartner is 95% of the buying journey happens without the seller in the room in a competitive deal. You get only 5% to influence a buying journey, a buying process, the buyers, right? Only 5% of their time. This is just mind blowing, right? Thinking about that. So I don't think it's the end of sales. I don't think it's fully self-service, automated AI type of thing yet. But we are trending towards a certain direction where they're more powered. They're saying no more, and we see the Google spam policy. We see a lot of trends, which means that more and more it's going to happen when you're not in the room. You have to be focused more on the buyer, or I'll be a bit blunt here and dramatic. I think the average selling experience is really going to become redundant. Okay, if we don't have as an industry, if we don't change, and this is why we're seeing in the last year or so, signal-based sales, less cold, pure cold, more signal-based outreach. We're seeing this on the SDR space, and I think on the actual deal execution down the funnel, this is why buyer enablement, Walnut, DemoStack, Novatic, these kind of tools, and things like digital sales rooms are popping up and becoming more of a mainstream experience that's more of a trending upwards kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's interesting, Gal, because on one side you could look at that and think like, that's really scary. Is there going to be a place for sellers in the future? I see it in a different way where it's creating opportunity for us to focus on the relationship side of the sale. If we can eliminate some of this redundant work, some of the time, things that just take too much away from the day-to-day and the actual relationship building, it frees up opportunities for us to have more authentic connections with these organizations and with these business leaders. So there is always opportunity within change. And so we just have to kind of look at it in that way. And so I think that's a very interesting call out and something we're talking about a lot behind the scenes too. It's interesting. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, please.
I would say even it's a wake-up call, right? It's a wake-up call to all of us to go back to focusing on what matters. I think we just stacked up a lot of, bad habits in the last few years at the growth at all cost era, and I think we can't just hire more experienced people and just level up there. So I think technology is really coming to assist, but also as a strategy, I think that we're seeing that companies are trying to adopt, like what Saad mentioned earlier, beyond digital sales rooms, we're trying to do this as a company and make sure that how we drive pipeline, for example, is only signal-based, is only creating wow experience throughout the entire pipeline lead generation process to just create a better journey than just 16-step sequence with, hey, first name is personalization.
Yeah. Very well said. Yeah, I think we definitely, I own that too. We definitely developed some bad habits over the last few years. And, sometimes you do get lucky with a good market. And so this is just forcing us as a field to level up. And this happens in every single field in different ways. And it's our turn right now. So there's, again, always opportunity where there's change. One of the questions, we actually did get a Q&A question, which I feel like Cindy teed us up perfectly for where we're headed next in our next question, which we're going to talk about some of the use cases where folks can leverage digital sales rooms. Because I think a lot of times as sellers, we think just, especially for digital sales rooms, for those of us who have been exposed to them, we think strictly enterprise sales, and it's for me as the AE to work with business leader on the other side of the enterprise deal. But the reality is there's a lot of other use cases in here. And what I'll further this question with is Cindy's question, which I think takes us to a cool place too. So if anybody's willing to speak to this, does a digital sales room assist with compliance/procurement review? So as we think about what types of use cases when we're answering this question, let's someone include that one as well, because that's a really great question. So Saad, why don't we start with you for this one?
Yeah, I want to jump on this, but I also want to double tap what Gal said earlier. I love my double taps. This is the most exciting thing one of the most exciting things for me about Aligned. Also, when I get excited, I talk with my hands. So just, people bear with me. Because when we get data on what people are looking at, that's conversation starters for us. We don't just following up. I can see what Alexine cares about, what she looked at for how long. So in a dystopian way, oh, we can start conversations, but it's true. I'm getting things to talk about, keep the conversation going, and things like that. So yeah, in a use case, relationship building, moving things along. Let's go back to closing deals on the golf courses, but virtually, I guess. Also, in terms of the question we got, so in Align, what you're able to do is you can create tabs or spaces, and it's easy as just calling it the procurement room, where think about if the question is, can this help with procurement review? Let's take a step back. What does procurement need for it to be an easy process for them? All the information that you can provide them, all questions answered, the NDAs, the order forms, a lot of that stuff. In Align, you can centralize all of that content, and you can create it in a way that you can deliver it to them based on steps that they can take or they need to take or at what time and so on and so forth. So if you think sharing all the relevant information to the procurement team in a digestible manner is helpful, Align is able to do that for you. And then on top of that, you can track the engagement, and you're able to hold them accountable when they have just reviewed their material or not. So it takes two to tango, as I said before. One is you've shared all the collateral. The other is in a timely and respectful manner. The other is being able to follow up with them and just continue to progress that along. I'll let some of the others focus on some of the other use cases, but I think those are the two things that I wanted to highlight without taking over the entire topic here.
Sounds good. Thank you. Zoe, what about you? What use cases come up for you? What comes to mind?
Yeah, sorry, I want to make sure I got off mute. Yeah, I mean, I think particularly trying to make sure that when you have you have a lot of edge decision makers, people who have an opinion, but they probably aren't signing on the dotted line. And they need to come in and see the one thing. They just need the one question answered. So I like having a digital sales room to have all of my ducks in a row so that when they need that one thing, it's where they need it. I can create different tabs so that something specific to that team is available to them. I think it's just a way to stay really organized and keep everybody in the loop who needs to be in the loop. I also really love it for when there's a secret extra decision maker that somebody didn't tell me about that ends up involved. When somebody forwards the information on to someone else and they show up in the room, I know who that person is. I now know, okay, maybe they didn't officially state that the VP of finance was going to be chiming in on this conversation, but clearly they needed their eyes on it. So I should consider them a part of the buying committee. And I think that that information is really helpful. We do our best to do discovery. We do our best to ask those questions, but sometimes people don't think about it. And so it's almost getting the information that your buyer maybe doesn't know is relevant to the deal, but is relevant to the deal, and just keeps you really in control, orchestrating that entire thing while still allowing your buyer the autonomy to run their own buying experience as opposed to, again, dragging them through a sales process.
Yeah.
Can I add something to that real quick?
Yes. Yeah, please.
So that finding additional stakeholder piece is very interesting. So this happened with Deal. Deal is one of the fastest growing company in the world. They have the process locked in. Over the last couple of years, they've started going into government contracts as well. They're managing immigration with Dubai government, a lot of that stuff. Just, there's a few things. But on that, what's happening is that they saw their stakeholders in the buying committee go up by over 46% more people entering their rooms, being involved in sales processes, which is, even for me, it was a very interesting thing there. And everybody's worried and focused about, oh, who's the buying committee? Are we actually getting introduced to the right people? So food for thought.
Yeah. It's funny. I started to giggle also, Zoe, when you were talking, because I was thinking about the old days where you would send an email and you could see the opens on it. And so sometimes you'd have one of these opens that was it's been opened or forwarded 126 times and you had no idea where it went. You don't know who looked at it. And then what was really funny was later, we would figure out sometimes that was just the email server for that particular company that was opening it. So yeah, I mean, that alone is nice so that you're not sitting there in excitement as an AE or an SDR, just thinking that your email is getting transferred around the entire company only to find out it's not. So I just always chuckle thinking about those days. Linda, what about you? What use cases come top of mind for you? Tell us about your thoughts here.
Sure. So the use case I'm thinking of is extremely different from the rest of the panel. So I have a client that they host webinars on a monthly basis, and these webinars are really the central point of building pipeline and moving opportunities across the finish line. And so they leverage digital sales rooms to keep their webinar registrants engaged before the event. And that creates a dynamic and interactive pre-webinar experience. So, it starts with like a welcome video, an agenda overview. And so right when the registrants enter the digital sales room, they're greeted with a personalized welcome video from the host or the key speakers. And I have to say, like, video is tremendously effective in deal rooms. People are more likely to remember details from video versus text, and so highly recommend leveraging video. But this video gave a brief overview of the webinar's agenda, highlighting key topics and what the registrants can expect to learn. And it truly built a lot of anticipation for these registrants. What's also nice is, they were able to use the digital sales rooms as like a resource library. So they hosted a lot of like pre-read materials, articles, case studies, white papers, like really any background information on the webinar topics. And so not only does it educate them, but it also primes them for the content that they're going to encounter during the webinar. You can meet the speakers. There's opportunities for like discussion forums or Q&A boards, like polls, surveys. And then also, as it gets closer, you can host some teaser content. So you can share snippets or key insights, data points, or graphics that will be explored in detail during those live sessions. And this sparks curiosity and really maintains their engagement as it leads up to the event. Like, think about how many times you've hosted a webinar and 100 people register and only 50% show up, because it's a free event. And so by leveraging these digital sales rooms for that pre-webinar engagement, it bumps up the attendees during that webinar, and it gives them a great opportunity to continue to follow the insights and the content, and then of course, obviously, executives want to be able to network with their peers. And so here's another space where they can introduce themselves, they can set up meetings, pre-webinar or post-webinar. And so, digital sales rooms, like, they add value to that experience. They encourage more active participation. So highly recommended.
Yeah. Very well said. What a cool use case too. This is my favorite part, is you bring these technology platforms to market, you put them out there with certain intentions. And what always ends up happening is people find these creative use cases and ways to leverage technology. It's just always incredible. I had not thought about that. Gal, you and I will talk offline about that, because maybe we'll do something for women in sales. So thanks for the idea, Linda. You always give me new things. Gal, what about you? Any other use cases? I know you're a fellow enterprise sales lover, so there's probably that in there too. But any other use cases that come to mind for you as well?
Yeah. So I can touch maybe on some more enterprise selling type of use cases. I think to double down a little bit more even on you mentioned, I think few of you mentioned the buying signals. Mm-hmm. I think that's like Alexine, you mentioned the open, and then you get a, hey, close lost, we went with a competitor, right, type of email, because you're blind. And what does it mean? Is it even real? And like a few of the things that we are seeing that typically users use digital sales room in these situations is, imagine like you're at the last stage of the sales process, and you could get an open versus CFO, you're waiting for signature, your chosen vendor, okay, and price already negotiated, and then the CFO enters the room. You know that it's a CFO. The CFO then spends 15 minutes in the competitive comparison table and on the negotiation that you had in the room, a little bit of back and forth on the proposal that you shared in the room. what an incredible golden opportunity right now to reach out to your champion or have some multi-threading done from your executives to the CFO. Say, hey, saw that you're now part of the process, wanted to jump in here, see if you need any support. Excited to kick this off soon, right? It's incredible multi-threading opportunities that are thrown at you, and really buying signals. No other word to say it. So that's just an example on that. I think that two more things maybe on the more enterprise selling. So champion building is a big one. So if you're doing pilot scopes, POCs, pilot, however you call it at your company, then building the scope within the room in a collaborative way, having that room not only where you host, case studies and things like that, but also a place where you work in a collaborative way on the business case with your champion. We're now adding AI that's going to build this business case for you based on conversations that happened in Gong calls or whatever calls you had. Building requirements, lists, all in the room, and really kind of fostering that collaborative experience with your champion and getting that done. And the last piece is just mutual action plans. So many teams are trying to make mutual action plans work, where the gap is that they're just not very mutual. They're typically a spreadsheet, and then you have maybe it's a Google spreadsheet, and then the company uses Microsoft and they can't open it, and it's not synced to the CRM, and it's a one-sided big list. It doesn't feel very collaborative to the buyer. It's detached from where the deal lives. You share resources over email. You maybe attach some links into that spreadsheet, but what kind of an experience is that? So essentially, a good digital sales room syncs that into the CRM. You update tasks from the CRM. The buyer can set reminders for themselves. You could set reminders for them, about things that are coming up. It's an actual project management tool. It sits where the deal lives, so there's much higher likelihood for people to use that mutual action plan. And as a sales leader, you can go and standardize. A spreadsheet that's detached is really, really hard. We see it again and again and again. It's typically a few reps that are getting it to work, but to go and say, hey, this is how we're selling, and to standardize across the entire team, a good mutual action plan driven sales process, very hard to do without a dedicated tool.
Yes. Gal, I feel like that was a very personal example. I'm like thinking about the Google versus Microsoft, and I'm like, yeah, I have definitely sent a Google Doc where we can't collaborate, or we've sent it via some kind of shared, resource, and one person can't access, one person forgets to update. Or for any of you that are in enterprise sales that have personally been victimized by this experience, where you have this list of 15 activities and you're like, we're both going to complete it by this date. But often it's just, I, as the sales rep, want it completed by this date. It doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. So especially when you also think about like these 2-year, if you've been in enterprise sales and you've done 1 to 2 year plus sales cycles, those are gnarly email threads. Some of those are hundreds of emails long. And when you try to go back through and find resources, it's incredibly challenging. So I love the example about mutual action plans. And again, everything that's been shared here today, of course, makes life easier as a seller, but a lot of what we talked about is making life easier as a buyer. It's making the experience better for them. It's helping them navigate the deal better. And in turn, it brings us as sellers back into the deal. So it doesn't feel so much like, hey, we can just do this without a salesperson because the experience has been so awful over time. It's like, hey, I actually want to work with this salesperson because they're meeting me where I am. So I really like all these examples that have been shared. I'm sure there's many more. One question for you, Gal, if you could just, there was a good question that came up here. Laura asked, what is signal-based? They hadn't heard this terminology used before. So could you give just some indications of what that means when there's signal-based intent on a specific deal?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, because so much happens in that room, right? You have content sitting there. So case studies, decks, videos, product demos, proposals, requirements, competitive tables, business case, executive summary, ROI calculations, even legal, even DPA, MSA, all of these acronyms, right? All of these things in one place, and the room gets built as the deal progresses, right? A good digital sales room would allow you to go and start small and then add maybe tabs and maybe lock the tab for the procurement, and other people can't see the rest of the items, and only procurement can see the legal and the data privacy officer can see all of the elements related to them, and it kind of becomes that central place. So because so much is happening there, and people come in, people identify themselves, because you start maybe with low permission and then level up permission as the deal progresses. You can change it all the time. Then that creates a lot of unique data points that you can't track otherwise. Okay, you're like a fly on the wall on what happens when you're not in the room. In that 95% in a competitive scenario, it's not the entire 95%. They're still meeting internally and meeting other vendors and doing a lot. But at least you get 10 or 20 more percent where they're reviewing and connecting and looking at the comment, looking at a deck. All of these things are tracked. So a good digital sales room would allow you to see, okay, how many stakeholders are involved in the deal? Someone just entered, get an alert, get a Slack message. How much time did the VP, the executive sponsor, what's their role? Okay, you can say, this is the executive sponsor, this is the champion. How much time has each of them spent? What exactly have they been looking at? Okay, see a full timeline to analyze. Okay, let's see a timeline of all of the different points of the buying journey, emails that were sent, calendar invitations, calendar meetings, and the asynchronous part. Someone entered the room, spent an hour, and during that hour, these are all the things that they've looked at. Okay, and that basically gives you the buying signals are potential risks. Okay, like the CFO example that I mentioned earlier. These are potential interest points, right? And these are things that you can go and use to personalize on. So follow up based on context of what they're looking at, etc.
Amazing. Really good question, Laura. That was a great one to dig into a little bit further. And fun fact, all of those then can become data points that your sales team can use. So if we can determine, hey, there were actually 15 people in this deal versus what we thought was 8, now that's a data point, and we can actually forecast based off this. Or we can see as soon as that CFO entered the deal, our deal moved at XYZ velocity. So these actually become data points that help leadership determine when deals are going to close, what our actual close ratios are, what our actual velocity within a deal is. So if you are a data nerd like myself, you find those things very interesting. So very cool. Well, we are almost in our last 10 minutes, which feels wild because I feel like we all just sat down and we just started talking. But we're going to go to a couple more questions. If there's any last minute Q&A, this is the time to throw it in so that we can move it into the conversation today. Love this. I saw a comment that said, so new to the digital sales room. So this is all brand new information to some of the folks that are here, which is great. And so for each of you, let's start with you, Linda. I know you just shared a really cool example. Do you have any other examples where you've personally seen success with digital sales rooms? If we already used up your really good example, or examples of ways in which you're going to use them later too, would also be a good.
I have the perfect example. So I have a client, they're a SaaS company, and they provide project management solutions. And so I was working with one of the reps, and she's working with a mid-sized construction firm looking to improve their project tracking and team collaboration. And so she leveraged digital sales rooms to further engage them and really streamline the sales process. And so, of course, she personalized it with the client's logo and a welcome message. And then she included some interactive product demos, truly showcasing like how their software can streamline project management and enhance team collaboration. And what was great was that the demos were tailored to the construction space, highlighting relevant features like task scheduling, time tracking, and real-time communication. But all of the content that she included in the digital sales room was customized. And so understanding that For example, they were particularly concerned about data security. She included a series of short videos and white papers detailing their robust security features, compliance certifications, as well as testimonials specifically focused on security. And so being able to leverage those digital sales room, that customer that they were so impressed with the personalized approach and really the ease of accessing all of that relevant information in one place. And then making it easy for them to interact with the team, with that transparency, the real-time engagement, and the tailored content. It allowed them to quickly build trust and credibility. And so the construction firm they felt even more confident in the software capabilities. And so they decided to move forward a lot quicker than anticipated. And so it was such a win for the sales rep because it allowed the digital sales room, it allowed her to address the client specific needs effectively. It led to a faster decision-making process, and she ended up closing a really big opportunity, as well as, enhancing that journey for the customer. And she was able to build stronger relationships with not only her point of contact, but really all of the stakeholders involved.
Amazing. What a good example. We had a couple in the chat here. Some folks were looking to access Align. So I just dropped a UTM link with a code as well. So it's free to join, free to sign up. So you have nothing to lose. And then we also have a code in there that if you decide to upgrade, you'll get 10% off for your first year. So just want to let people know that's in there because I know that question is coming. And if you are looking for example templates, Zoe and I each created an example, and that's in the expert gallery that Arthur and I have dropped a couple times in the chat throughout this conversation. So you should, once we walk away this event, have everything you need. But if not, we also have our Slack community. You can always post questions in there. And that link's in here too. So everything's in here that you could possibly need. What about you, Saad? What is an example of where you've personally seen success while using a digital sales room, which I imagine is literally every one of your deals? But give us a cool example.
This is a good one. So we committed a cardinal sin for one of the deals, and to this deal, and the cardinal sin was that we only spoke to the VP of sales. And you know how everybody complains, oh, event leads don't close. So this was a VP of sales that was willing to champion and back this. And what we gave him in return was the idea that, you know what, we're going to make you our best champion, and we're just going to make it easier for you to get this bought and sold internally. So long story short, this VP of sales spent 20 hours in the room. We never multi-threaded anybody. And then one day we jumped inside of the Align Analytics and saw that the purchasing manager is there, strategic officer is there, and a few other sales leaders are there. And to me, this went completely against how I've ever sold. I'm just like, is this actually happening? This is true. This was just 2-3 months ago. No, this is just 2-3 months when I was at Aligned as well. So I'm still buying. Let's be real. I'm still buying into the company and just everything that's going on. And then I saw this happen. And then I specifically remember in the comment section of the order form, I just click. What the VP of sales does is Daniel, who's our AE, and the VP of sales had a back and forth. And all he did was tag the purchasing manager. We were all assuming someday the CFO is going to enter the chat. All he did was just tag the purchasing manager. It's still in the room. She spent 1 hour, 30 minutes in the deal room. Some of it, this time was with Daniel, and the deal was signed. I've never seen, and I was coming from vendor. We used to sell to CFOs to make their job easy. I've never seen a finance leader just within 1 hour, 30 minutes, check it off. And that's exactly because of everything that happened before. The content, the multi-threading, everything was there for her to see. So that's one win. Second one is I was trying to book a meeting with the sales manager, and this has been during October when Google and Yahoo created the scare that, hey, we can't sell links anymore. It's still valid. And I reached out to her, and she says 2 things to me. She's like, "Saad, just send me something that I can review." And I'm like, okay, cool. What do I send? Well, hold on. I have a line. I can send a lot of links. I can get away with that. Second thing she says is, she said, "I'm going to Amsterdam. I can't take a meeting right now. So can you just send me something that's going to be relevant for my CFO? Our execs are overseeing every single thing, even before we take a meeting." I was taken a little back my thought was, is this a brush off or is this actually real? Centered the Align room, created 2 spaces, one for her, one for her CFO, tracked the analytics, saw that she looked at every single thing, jumped to the buyer section, business case section where I added the financials for the CFO. Then I can see in Align that she went to Amsterdam. She wasn't lying. She actually was. And then the next day she jumps back in, looks at our demo video, and then booked the meeting. Asynchronously, I was able to get in front of the CFO without ever having a meeting. In a traditional sense, this would have been first call, something, then the CFO introduction, and then so on and so forth. That for me was, I was like, okay, we're building something interesting. So yeah.
That's awesome. You can see the passion. Saad was great to fit for the team. Zoe, any use cases, or not use cases rather, but personal success stories with digital sales rooms? And I'll also double tap that Zoe's own digital sales room is in the expert gallery that we shared a couple times. So if you want to creep on Zoe's example, it's right in there. And I'll reshare that link while you're speaking, Zoe.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like I've sold a bit of like event sponsorships in the past couple of weeks. And so like so much of what I'm doing is just sharing, like past success and like other sponsor case studies and people who are like, we've had a great time sponsoring these events. And so I would say it is my success has come from just like being able to share collateral in one space and allowing people to sort of like choose their own adventure of what they want to see, like providing them options, and they don't look at everything and trying not to overwhelm them. But that's really helped me move a deal forward. The other thing I think that it's really helped me do, and this is like a little less tangible or a little less singular, is it's given me a lot of information about personas. Like I feel like I'm learning every single deal about persona behavior, which is helping me like iterate and refine my process as I approach that persona in the next deal cycle. Like I understand more about how CFOs at Series B companies look at event sponsorships. So the next time I sponsor something or I pitch that sponsorship, I now have a piece of collateral that 3 different CFOs have reacted positively to. And so like I'm getting better at templatizing my sales process to be a better buying experience. So I know that's like more of a generic example, but I think like I have been able to replicate success and shorten my own deal cycle simply by like observing persona behavior in real time and being able to refine my process on the back end of that.
Yeah. And I love that each of these examples are different. Like these aren't repeat examples. There isn't one singular use case. There's not one singular success story. And that's, I think, what makes Aligned and Digital Sales Room such a powerful platform. So really happy to hear some new and different examples out here too, because sometimes we only think it's one and there's so much out there. Gal, we'll close with you. We had a couple more questions, but we ran out of time because we were just having so much fun. So, Gal, if you want to share a fun success story and also any parting words on the Align side, I'll give you a chance to do so.
Yeah, amazing. This has been great. So I'll already say it. So I think, we're one of the best things is to use Align to sell Align. I'm no longer in the field as much, but that's been like amazing. And when I am like running a demo and maybe doing a process afterwards, it's just great. So we're kind of getting a lot of insights as we run this. So I think one of the recent things that I remember is a Q4 deal, end of year, end of quarter push. We had one of the bigger deals, took a long time, dragged in legal. And basically, we ran the entire legal process in Align. So one of the things that helped us understand that we're on track was seeing the legal team spending time and the security team spending time. So we know, okay, that it's working. They're on it versus legal team that's very silent and very quiet. And I think what happened there is 2 weeks before end of quarter, a new stakeholder came in. We checked and we saw that it's a security person. We thought that we had already closed the security piece, but and our champion didn't know who it is. Okay, what we did, our AE basically reached out with a message in the room. Hey, saw you just joined the process. We're working towards finalizing the agreement in the next 2 weeks, and if there's anything we can do to help, let me know. Copying the champion, also sending a DM on LinkedIn, and sending a link again on LinkedIn to the workspace. And the security guy basically replied that he was tasked with looking at this with a few concerns that came up and asked for materials. Then we immediately, jumped on a call and solved things on time. And I think, it's just that example. I think signal selling and buying signals came up a few times here. This could have easily just slipped out of the quarter. And this could have been maybe an objection that would have grown and grown more and more if they would have just reviewed the materials with us noticing that there's a person that's typically not going to go on a call, that's just been looked in very late, been tasked with doing something very specific, and we're able to go and jump in quickly to solve this. So that's my most recent story. And yeah, I'll say just I think we said it all, but you can go and check it out. I think that the templates are, even if you don't eventually go and have a look at Aligned, it is free, and the templates are incredible. Zoe's and Alexine's, I won't say who's better, so just kidding. Both of them are amazing templates, getting downloaded and used a lot. So you can just even use the templates to see how Alexine and how Zoe are selling and follow their process. There's a nice video there of how they're using the templates, and yeah, it's been fun, very fun.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Saad, Linda, Gal, Zoe. We had such a good chat today. Hopefully everyone learned at least a little bit about digital sales rooms. We covered a ton. If you have any questions, bring those over to the Women in Sales Slack community. We can take those in the Tech Tools channel. I also dropped the coupon code here alongside the sign-up link. So if you want to try Align for free, now's the time. And I just want to thank our panelists again, and thank you all that are in the audience today for being here, for your incredible questions and your participation. We are very grateful for all of you. So thank you so much. We'll see you at the next event. Tons coming up for Women's History Month. So stay tuned.
Thank you.